The U.S. presidential election remains unsettled. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden leads with 253 electoral votes as he wins Michigan and Wisconsin. President Trump disputes the counting in swing states and has filed lawsuits in 3 states to halt the election. Pennsylvania, Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina are key results still hanging in the balance. Wall Street ends higher as investors await outcome of the U.S. presidential election. The Dow rises over 350 points while Nasdaq outperforms with a 4% gain as tech stocks rally. Asia gains in early trade. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to chair a roundtable with 20 of the world's largest pension and sovereign wealth funds with $6 trillion in assets later this evening. Mukesh Ambani, Ratan Tata, Nandan Nilekani and Deepak Parekh will also attend the meeting. Maharashtra government allows cinema halls and multiplexes to reopen with 50% capacity from tomorrow. SOPs to be announced soon. A very good morning and welcome to Power Breakfast in the Mumbai News Center. I am Sonal Bhutra, and US election day has now carried into Wednesday and it is a tight contest. US markets extended the post-election rally yesterday and Asian markets too are higher in trade today ahead of the election results. So we are seeing good gains coming in as far as the Nikkei, Hang Seng and Shanghai is concerned. All of them are up in trade, up around 1 to 2%. It's Hang Seng which is seeing a rally of almost 510 points. And if we look at the other indices as well, something like a Taiwanese index, Straits Times, all of them carrying on those gains. So Straits Times is up around 2% Kospi also seeing gains of around 1.8%. And SGX Nifty, as a result of that, is indicating that the start for our own markets could be in the green, well in the green. In fact, it's up 1.6%, an almost 200-point rally that we are seeing on SGX Nifty today. So maybe we are bracing ourselves for a good day of trade after the rally that we saw yesterday. But first up, let's take a look at let's also talk about the big story that we've been talking, that is the presidential election outcome that remains undecided. But the race to the White House is now hinged on key states of Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. For some insight into the political twists and turns from the presidential vote, let's get in Alice Barr of NBC News.
This is really going the way that it was expected, even though it is way tighter than anyone initially thought. Yesterday, what we were really looking at was the day of voting, which did trend toward President Trump. So if you were looking, a lot of people went to bed last night and saw that he had some healthy margins in a lot of the battleground states, but that has eroded overnight and throughout the day as the mail-in ballots have continued to be counted in these major battleground states. And we knew this all along, that this is the way this was going to go. The Democrats were more inclined to vote by mail, and that Republicans were more inclined to vote in person, and specifically on Election Day. So those continuing mail-in ballots have continued to shift the tide really more toward Joe Biden in several of these battleground states. And we've had some major calls throughout the day today that have given him an advantage in the Electoral College count. So the biggest one being that NBC News projects that Joe Biden is the winner in Michigan. Now, already Trump's team, the Trump campaign, has filed suit to stop the count in Michigan. They're trying to erect a challenge there that they hope could potentially disrupt that victory that so far has been declared for Joe Biden. And then also he was declared the apparent winner in Wisconsin, Joe Biden was. And that's part of that blue wall that used to exist for Democrats up in this Rust Belt in the northern Midwest part of the country that fell in 2016 when Hillary Clinton lost to President Trump at that time. So that's been really critical, that those two have been called for Joe Biden. Now, we said an apparent winner in Wisconsin because it is so tight there that we already know it's going to go to a recount. President Trump has asked for that already. So that's what has been called at this point, at least. Then Pennsylvania is a massive, outstanding question right now, and there are likely to be legal challenges there as well. But those are some of the major states to watch at this point.
All right. In fact, let's also listen into what experts make of the pending elections verdict and impact on markets.
I believe what we're seeing is the Goldilocks scenario for the market is a Biden win and the Republicans holding the Senate. Whether the presidency goes to Biden or Trump, and that will be, as your last guest said, it's going to take a while, but I think we'll know in the next few weeks. Either way, it's very positive for the market. And what I mean by that is we're not going to see enormous corporate and personal income tax hikes. We're not going to see things that would really drag the U.S. economy going forward. And we are going to see a stimulus, whether it's the $1.4 trillion stimulus from the Republicans or the $2 trillion or more from the Democrats. We are going to get some sort of stimulus here in the short term. The tech community is a huge sponsor of the Biden campaign. And I think that what you saw happen, if you looked at how the Chinese currency traded last night and this morning, as the polls ebbed and flowed, or not the polls, sorry, the results, as the results were coming in the various states, as you saw the market starting to favor a Biden win, which it looks like he is going to win now in our view. I think look, tech has been a huge supporter of the Biden campaign, and I think that they're feeling that they're safe now.
All right, that's the global market action. A lot that is awaited. But how will overnight cues impact the Indian markets? We have our research team joining in with how the trade setup looks like, the stocks that are likely to be in the news, and the F&O setup as well. Hi guys, good morning. First up, Rima, let me come across to you. What is the market setup that we should be watching out for today?
Well, despite the little bit of an election uncertainty, the global markets continue to remain upbeat. They're extending the election rally. So last night, you had the Dow gaining about 360 points. The S&P 500 rallied over 2%, and the Nasdaq, as you pointed out, was higher by close to about 4%. There is optimism about the U.S.
All right, Rima, we'll come back to you. Looks like there is some technical glitch. So let me come across to Nupur first, who will list out the stocks to watch out for in today's trade. Hi, Nupur. Good morning.
Good morning, Sonal. First up, let me start with crazy good earnings reported by Pidilite. Revenues, operating profits as well as net profit well above street expectations, and consumer business volume grew 8% versus Polo 4 to 5% decline. USL, another good set of numbers coming in there as well. Revenues, adjusted margins as well as profits well above street expectations on the back of strong recovery seen in their volumes. P&A volumes came in lower at just 0.6% versus expected decline of 12 to 14%. Another strong operating performance reported by Apollo Tyres. Operating margins came in at 16% versus Polo of 13%. SRF also reported strong operating performance. Operating margins increased to 28% versus 19% same period last year. JK Lakshmi Cement, there as well, company reported a strong set of numbers. Revenues, operating profits, volumes beat street expectations. HPCL also joins the list of good earnings. Revenues up 37%, and board approves buyback at rupees 250 per share, which is 34% premium to its current market price. Lupin, revenues above pole, but operating income came in slightly below estimates. Indian Hotels, sequential improvement seen, but long way to go when it comes to YY levels. September occupancy level came in at 35%. Godrej Consumer, Imami, Berger Paints, Dalmia Bharat to report their Q2 earnings today. PVR and Inox will be in focus. Maharashtra government allows cinemas to open with 50% capacity today. So that all these stocks will be in focus. Back to you.
All right, Nupur, that was a long list and good one at that because a lot of good numbers out there. But Rima, we have you back. What is the market setup looking like today?
Well, despite the last-minute election uncertainty and who's going to be the president and the fact that COVID cases in US and Europe continue to rise, this election rally seems to continue full throttle. So the Dow was up 370 points, the S&P 500 rallied over 2%, and the Nasdaq gained close to about 4%. Brent too jumped close to about 4% overnight, so now it's above that $41 per barrel mark, while dollar index has eased now below 93.5. For our own market, we've been running also full steam. Sensex and Nifty gained for the third consecutive session. The unlocking of the economy continues. So today, Maharashtra government has allowed reopening of cinema halls. Electronic brands have reported the highest ever October sales. Revenues for companies like Lenovo, Samsung, Apple, etc. have gone up by 20% on a year-on-year basis, according to reports. And even the earnings which are trickling in, so Pidilite, USL, as Nupur pointed out, were better than what the street was anticipating. And yesterday, banks took a breather, and IT and Reliance, made a comeback. So Reliance Industries rallied 3.5%. It saw delivery volumes of over 1,200 crore rupees. So that was a positive. In terms of the inflows and outflows by FIs, DIs, nothing meaningful. Actually, the gross volumes by the FIs were lower than what we had in the prior session. So the FI bought about 150 crore while the DI sold 8 crore. Back to you.
All right, Reema, thanks a lot for that. And finally, let me go across to Nigel joining in with the cues from the F&O space this morning. Hi, Nigel.
Well, the momentum is with the bulls, and we have seen that from Monday's trading session from the lows. In fact, the Nifty is up nearly around 350 points. And going by what the SGX Nifty is suggesting, well, we'll be back to the pre-COVID levels even on the Nifty, because it's suggesting a start at around 12,100 plus. That's the highest we have seen since mid-February. Now, in terms of flows yesterday, no big flows did come in. From the FIs, we have seen the previous two trading sessions, big buying was seen. Well, yesterday they were, they bought only around 150 crores. So that is a little bit lower than what we saw in the previous sessions. But the DIs, they have been selling 500 to around 1,000 crores odd. They took a break yesterday. So it seems the institutions were on a seller strike. And that's what helped the markets move higher. Even if you look at the options data, well, it's not very, very encouraging. The previous two sessions, you had big writing on the put side. This time around, there was more call writing. So is the upside capped? Well, time will tell. But in yesterday's trading session, the call writing was to the tune of around 10,000 contracts. Now, in terms of strikes that were active, the 12,100 call, the 12,200 call, both of them were fairly active. We're going to start off with big gains. So keep an eye out on both these two strikes, because, if there is unwinding out there, it'll indicate that maybe, in fact, there is some money being taken off the table. They were buying puts as well as calls, pretty much even Stevens out there. And in terms of the index futures, well, they added more shorts. They unwound some longs, though, in fact, as we speak, the FIs, they're net short on the index with nearly around 52% of their positions on the short side. Levels you're looking at, well, the journey towards the all-time high of 12,430, that's begun. Matter of time before we get there. In terms of a near-term support, well, the nearest technical level is at the 20 DMA at around that 11,830 odd mark. Back to you.
All right, Nigel, thanks a lot for joining us. Nupur and Reema, thanks to you as well for prepping us up for this trading day ahead. But it's time to slip into a break. Maharashtra opens its doors to the big screens. We'll get you more on that when we return. Stay tuned.